Hello, everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek Aloud. This is the gaming enforcement agency coming to you every week on a Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Middle slot this week is vacant. Once again, unfortunately, Unky can't be with us. However, Bully, your good self is with us. How are you doing in that there third slot?
Oh, I'm doing all right, Troy. Doing all right. Just straining myself down here.
I see what you did there. All right, guys, this week we have the run-of show is as follows. Games, interrogation, and deliberation. There's only 3 games, but you can probably guess why this week. Then we are diving into a cold case. That's a game Bully's ripped off his backlog and dived. I don't know what the past tense dive is. And then we've got the most modern game. That's the one we are most looking forward to coming out in the coming week. Followed by that, we've got the news segment. Bully, how many doors have you been able to kick in this evening, sir?
Little light on after the Games Fest, so I've only got 2 for this evening.
Fair enough, and rightly so. After that, of course, it's audience interrogation. That's where Bully straps you to a chair and pulls all the comments out of you. Bully, are you happy to patrol the chat throughout the evening? And should any pearlers come on through, deliver them, please, hot.
Certainly, I'm in patrolling already.
Excellent work, mate. Thank you. If you're in the chat, make sure you say hi to Bully. But we are now on. As I said, this week, 3 games, interrogation, and deliberation. Let's get. All right, Bully. First up, we have Death Stranding 2. Now, we've got a few caveats to go along with this one. I've put in an hour. I've got a really good reason. But before we get to the reason, I'll note that it was available 2 days ago if you pre-ordered the digital deluxe edition. And then was it today, Bully, or is it tomorrow the game officially launches? Standard edition, physical?
Officially releases today. You also got the early access with the collector's edition, which had the statue in it as well.
Oh, that would have been nice. I would love me another statue on the collection. So those are the things that are available. Bully, as I understand it, you've ordered your copy. Have you picked it up?
No, still waiting for it to come. So
Amazon?
I might be a couple of. Well, it's funny because they've been actually pretty good lately. And then this is the one game that I've actually been keen to jump in for day one, and they're late. So.
And you said you learnt your lesson earlier. All right, well, let me dive into this. Check this out, Bully. This is the opener, the very top opener of the game. You're running along, and I don't know if this was in the first one. I never came across it. You can tap in R3, I think it was, and it pans the camera out. It's very much the cinematic camera from G.E.A. But this whole game looks phenomenal. I'll note I've captured all this footage running in, quality mode. I went for the quality mode on the PS5 Pro, hoping for the best of both worlds. Look at this earthquake about to drop here, Bully. And honestly, everyone, there's only footage from the first hour of the game, so we're really not going to get heavily into spoilers. That just the environmental effects, Bully, they're a treat to behold. I'm sure you'll get right into it. Fantastic use of the DualSense controller, the speaker in the controller, the adaptive triggers. They have this game singing on all cylinders. Speaking of the old gyroscope motion controls to soothe Lil, I think it is. But, Bully, I got to say, I'm not sure about the tuning of this because I felt like I was just shaking a crying child. Like, I felt like an English nanny. I was waiting for the cops to come and lock me up for it. Was it that bad in the first one? Like, a little rock, and on screen, he's really feeding it to it. I think maybe they need to dial that down in a patch, maybe.
No, I'm not sure. I know there was the rocking of the baby in the first one, but it was certainly because the BB was in the
test tube,
the
embryo,
test tube, the capsule, for want of a better word. It was only sort of just side to side and sort of soothing it. There was no sort of violent rocking or shaking in it. So I suppose the interesting choice, and I'm not surprised that Kojima's gone in for trying to push the boundaries of interaction with the game, because that's
he's nailed it.
Quite clearly what he's known for. But I'm always, it doesn't matter what game it is, I'm always a bit hesitant with the gyro in the controllers itself. I love the haptic feedback. I love the sensitive triggers and all the rest of it that goes with it. But any game that's got that, I sort of cringe, because I just want to sit there and hold the controller in my hand and play it. I don't want to have to jiggle it around like you're actively involved in something. It just sort of pushes the boundary a little bit too far for me, but some people enjoy it. So
yeah, I thought you were a big fan of, which Zelda was it on the Wii with the swishing of the sword?
Hate them. Hate the Wii controller. And in fact, it was Skyward Sword when they re-released that on the Nintendo Switch. They did the HD version for that, and thankfully, you could turn off the motion controls for it and just use one of the sticks to swipe the sword in whatever direction you wanted. So that was the first thing I turned off.
Fair enough, mate. So the reason I've only put an hour into this, it's twofold. But the first one, Bully, this game brought me to tears 3 times. 1, 2, 3 times in the first hour of gameplay. Now, arguably, I'm in a heightened emotional state at the minute, so maybe I'm an easy target for him. But he got me 3 times in the first hour, and I just have not been getting enough sleep lately to cope with this game. I love everything about it. Looks great, runs great, sounds great, story's phenomenal. I've been reading, 10s almost unanimously across the board from critical reviews of the game, and from everything I've seen, it absolutely deserves it. I think this has easily knocked, unfortunately, Expedition 33 off that top slot for Game of the Year. Wait till you go hands-on with it, Bully. As much as I loved Expedition 33, I didn't finish it, that being said, but it didn't get me to cry once. I didn't even get close. But for this game to nail me...
Have you finished Act 1?
No, I
Go
haven't.
back and finish Act 1 and then tell me you don't cry at the end of that.
All right. Challenge accepted. But, look at this, Billy. The environmental effects coming through again. Big sandstorm comes in. And you know how I'm typically an ace when it comes to 3D platforming. Look what happens when this sandstorm hits. And there's the, adaptive triggers going and everything. And it really just threw me off my game here, Bully. I went for a tumble trying to jump a platform. But what I love about this game is at that moment after he drops, the character says to you, I want to watch where I'm going. I'm an idiot, or something to that effect. So I thought it was pretty funny that Kojima was...
Well, that's some good feedback for your 3D platforming skills then.
Exactly right, mate. I thought they've thought of everything for this game. Like, he just knows when the little jab was fine. Do you want me to rattle off the things that got me, or should I just leave it out because they're somewhat story related?
Leave it out, I reckon. Leave it out. But I suppose what we sort of probably got to look forward to next week is, I know Unky was messaging us before that he's put sort of 14, 15 hours into the game already and put a fair whack into it. So he's really enjoying it. Hopefully the both of us get a lot more hands-on in the next week and can probably discuss it a bit more. But really interesting to hear the initial impressions you've got there, even in the first hour, that it's emotionally resonating with you, that the story is resonating with you. And the other thing that has really interested me with it as well is that the critical feedback that it's getting already, because the first game, if you're not aware of the game style of how it sort of plays, it can be somewhat polarizing. And that was shown in the Death Stranding 1 release, not only amongst reviewers, but, commercially as well, that, you either loved it or hated it. So it's really good to see that the reviews coming in early doors are extremely positive. Like you said, 9s and 10s across the board, that it's just, a masterpiece of a game, which the reality is, I don't think Kojima's really ever put a foot wrong, to be honest with you, even if it's not quite your taste in game.
I've got a story about Kojima putting a foot wrong, but maybe it's not fit for on air. Keep going.
No. It's just that it's funny because I was watching him run and then he's put the wrong foot forward. Like even the games that he puts out, even if they're not your style of game that you'd normally enjoy, most people, if they're being objective, can understand the art and the quality and the storytelling behind it and the immersion that we mentioned it before with the gyro and all the rest of it, but the immersion that he tries to drag into his storytelling and the game itself. So,
and the modern tools he's got to work with, that DualSense Edge controller, like, it just sucks you in. Sorry, mate, back to you.
No, that's pretty much where I was at with it. It's just I'm super keen to get hands on with it. Really looking forward to it. Now, and it probably doesn't come through on the video that you've got there on YouTube, but from what Unky was saying and you can probably attest to it, is that it's one of the most gorgeous looking games that's out there, and especially takes advantage of the PS5 Pro and the capabilities that it's got to keep a decent frame rate going while maintaining that visual quality and visual fidelity. The
previous high watermark on that was not Ghosts of Tsushima. It was Assassin's Creed Shadows that came out earlier this year. Visually, you didn't think that? No. Okay. Well, throw me yours then. What do you think's the high watermark of gaming?
Geez. You throw me on the spot now, but
all right. Well, you chew on that.
I'll come back to it.
Yeah, come back to it. What I was going to say was the game's phenomenal, and I can't wait to get back into it. I didn't particularly enjoy the first game, much to your earlier point, Billy. I played the first hour, I think, of the game, might have been 2 hours, several times over the years. You know, when it launched, put it down for a year or two, came back, and then because I'd forgotten everything, I had to start from the beginning again. And then when it hit PlayStation 5, the Digital Director's Edition, whatever it was called, I tried it again there, and I keep getting to about that 2 hour mark, maybe 1.5 hours, and then it just doesn't hold me. But this game is gripping, it's compelling, and to your point, mate, like he's just perfected. Like what was a fantastic game by all accounts last time around, he's perfected it this time. It's phenomenal artwork.
Yeah, and it looks like it off the bat. So it's, there's probably not much more I can say to it other than just absolutely keen. Like I said, I was disappointed I don't have my hands on it on day one, but hopefully it'll come in the next couple of days. But it's one of those games that I'm probably the same. I enjoyed the first one without absolutely loving it, but the more that this sort of crept up towards the release date, the more excited I got about it, just because I wanted to see what was next. And you could see playing through the first game that the sort of grounding that he was trying to put through, the storytelling that he was trying to put through, and if he could in the second game sort of develop that gameplay element to it, even though it is still a quote unquote walking sim, if you could add elements into it and expand on what was in the first game, it can, and make it much more enjoyable and interactive, other than just going through these long periods of literally just walking from point A to point B. If you've got other things in there to keep you occupied, and because I think in the first one you could pretty much go through without boss fights excluded. You could pretty much go through the whole game without fighting or shooting your gun.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a little bit more of that sort of stuff, a little bit more modern gameplay mechanics without devolving too far away from what the first game was. I think putting those both together is what I was really excited about, and what I'm still excited about. Can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, I know. I've already said it a couple of times. I've only played an hour, but there is no walking simulator in this yet. Whereas that is the problem I had with that first one, trying to several cracks at it. So excited to get deeper into it. To your point about combat, Bully, the first mission that I've done, there was, run up this road and there'll be thugs or whatever, and then go deliver this. And I, instead of doing that, just sort of meandered my way around the outskirts and never saw anybody, and just delivered it, and then got stealth, stat point bonus for delivering the mission without combat. So it's really good. The one little quirk I noticed, not a gameplay quirk or anything, but just an odd social commentary, I suppose, is early on here you get the opportunity to like a post. They've got their whole social network on there, someone sends you a message, and if you hit like on it, you get a trophy pop for hitting the like. But what I found fascinating by it, you also got 10 experience points. And my question to you, Bully, in your entire life, have you ever received a like for a post and felt you got 10 XP points up for your efforts?
I'm not sure I've ever received a like for a post ever, so I certainly haven't gained anything from it. I don't know.
Look at the artwork there, Billy. You've just walked out of a sandstorm, and he's just Norman Reedus' face there, just covered in sand. It's remarkable. We're not going to get to it. We'll kick on to game 2, but just because we've entered the locker now, and it's reminded me at the end of this locker sequence, I went and customized my character, picked some glasses, picked a hat, customized my backpack a little bit, and every step of the way, Norman Reedus was, no, I can't go out looking like this to me. Well, I don't think Kojima likes my taste aesthetically at all.
Well, it's funny you talk about Norman Reedus as well, because I saw a comparison shot between the first game and the second game, and I always thought it was a pretty good representation of him in the first game. But you look at it side by side between the first and the second game, and it's almost night and day. And number one was graphically really impressive as well. So the fact that they've gone almost from what I've seen, and granted it's still images that have that side by side, but it's almost photorealistic to a degree where you could actually see it and go, oh yeah, that's actually Norman Reedus walking around on screen. So amazing technology, and again, it's probably one of those things that you've almost come to expect it out of Kojima, that's the quality of what he puts forward, and it's just how he sort of puts it all together. So yeah.
It's an absolute masterclass in gameplay, game design across the board. I love everything about it, and I can't wait to have a bit more time and emotional stability to dive into it. That'll do it for game one. Game two this evening is, for reasons a little bit unknown to me, the game is, of course, Mindseye. I'm thoroughly enjoying my time with it. I'm not suggesting it's up there with Expedition or Death Stranding or anything like that, but this game, from what I've played, is sitting at an 8 currently. Now, I've seen a fair share of bugs visually. The biggest visual bug that I'll ding them for is I go through, and I don't know about you, Bully, but when I play, the first thing I do is open the settings menu and tweak all the settings sliders and everything. And I go in there and I always disable motion blur. I always disable depth of field, the things visually or film grain if it's there. With this game, I went through, turned off all the visual elements I didn't like. I just want a clean, crisp picture. Save, quit, put the PlayStation to rest mode, came back the next day, turned it on, resumed the game. Then I'm like, this game looks horrible again. Oh, I'll go into the settings. All my settings have reverted back every time. And then I tested, I turned it off, suspend start mode, came back. And sure enough, whatever visual settings you modify to your liking, when you relaunch the game, even straight out of suspend mode, like if you didn't quit it, just put it into rest mode, come back, keep playing, all the visual sliders have reverted. It's absolutely bizarre, such a bug. So I hope their development team have that one as their top ticket to fix in the coming days. But here's the high praise I want to give this game. This game, to me, is one of the best stories I've come across in a long time, with the caveat of we're talking, near future sci-fi, action adventure, like film narrative plot. This game's singing for me on all those levels. It's right up there with, and I know you love the Splinter Cell games, but I love the story of the Splinter Cell games. And this is what I'd compare this game to. Like, as much as I enjoyed the story in the Splinter Cell games, I'm enjoying the story in this game. I will finish this game before I get into Death Stranding 2, just because I've got to know how this story rolls out. Now, I want to dive into that a little more, but first I think we need to set the stage a little. I'm playing this on the PS5. Pro, obviously, and Bully, you've played it as well on the Pro?
Yeah, played it on the Pro as well. I suppose before we get into it, and I just wanted to clarify probably a conversation we were having on messages during the week. So when you talk about adjusting the settings, and I think what we were talking about was how it sort of looked, and the main point was that both of us have got an LG TV that can show the frame rate. So yours and mine were both showing a 60. I checked that. Unky seems to think it's running at 30. So, and I know you adjusted a lot of the settings. Was that just within game or on the TV itself that you adjusted those settings?
I'll start this by saying I spent 4 hours deep diving as much as I could. I was going through and changing everything. Like, I got the picture looking the way I like it in game. As I said, all those variables turned off. Depth of field, motion blur, all the rest. I kill all that because I just want the crispest image possible. And very much to your point, with the LG monitor, you hit the button and up comes, 60 frames a second. So I'm sitting there and playing. I'm like, this looks pretty good. This looks close to 60. I sent you guys a message and like, I heard this got dinged for a low frame rate, but I'm not seeing it. Unky came back with several counterpoints that were bang on. And one of these things he said was, go into your tally and just check out these specific settings. And that's when I dropped the 4 hours into it. And I went through arduously, if you can imagine me being really methodical about something, and I'd disable one setting, play a bit more of the game, disable the next setting, play a bit more of the game. And where I got to was, if you disable every LG nook and cranny, every feature they have available to help with the frame, kill them all, the game runs as reviewed by a lot of people dinking it for looking terrible at 30. I would assert that is made even worse if they are not, and I don't know how other people game, but for me, I'm always killing depth of field and motion blur because I can't stand that look. But it's my experience doing the test I was just talking about with the LG, all the LG sort of upscaling, AIing, frame, whatevering, with all those disabled, the game runs at 30, which looks atrocious as you'd expect a 30 frame to look. But if you add on top of that all those visual features that I don't like turned on, motion blurring, depth of field, etc., that 30 frame goes from horrible to atrocious. So if the default reviewers don't tweak those settings, or if maybe they did tweak the settings, but because the game is bugged at a fundamental level, that, you know, they've put the system into rest mode and come back, and if they don't have the LG monitor that's doing all the extra work, that game just, it looks atrocious in that state. And so, sorry, I've belabored that point a bit too much. Basically, it can look horrible and runs at 30, but if you've got the right monitor and the right settings, the game is very, very easy on the eyes.
No, and I suppose that's the point I'm getting to, though, is so I think both of us had seen, and Unky was sort of holding off on playing it because of the reviews that had come through, and exactly that it was running terribly. The frame rate was choppy and all over the place. There was bugs in it, which admittedly there was on launch day. They put out a couple of patches since then. I played it close to launch and noticed a few things here and there, but since they've patched it and the latest patch came out a couple of days ago, I haven't noticed any bugs in it whatsoever. And just to your point there, where you like, I get it that not everyone can afford the pro system, and they're potentially playing it on the base PS5. They might be playing on an older monitor or an old TV or whatever it is. But I was dumbfounded when I started hearing those and reading those reviews of how poor the quality of the game itself was for those specific reasons. And I was exactly the same. Mine's running at 60. And to me, I guess, how much weight do you put into when you're reviewing it is what you're provided with on the most basic of monitors that you're playing on, or if you've got something that's relatively new that has AI upscaling, that has all of the latest features into the actual monitor or the TV itself to push at up to 60. It runs well. It looks graphically, I haven't had an issue with the way it looks. I think it's actually quite not a bad looking game when it's running with all those additional AI features that the TV is pushing through. So again, I haven't look, I've probably put 5 hours into it. I really haven't noticed any massive bugs. To me, it looks quite good. I'm with you. The story's interesting. There's a couple of little bits in the open world that I've sort of found are a bit sort of dreary, going from point A to point B. That like there's one point early on where you leave the sort of city area and then you go to this sort of deserted old factory sort of thing, and it takes you like real time probably 4 or 5 minutes to get there, and it's just like it's a boring drive. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And there's nothing sort of going on. They do try and temper it a little bit with some narrative coming through via phone calls and information and all the rest of it, but it's still a boring. Like they need to, in my opinion, that's the one downfall with the game, is that they need to compress that downtime a little bit. And if they had, like, some of the action sequences are pretty good. The cover and shooting mechanics, from my point of view, are pretty good. Like that action stuff and actually playing the game, those elements are really good. It's the downtime and either driving or running or walking from point A to point B. That's where it lets itself down to a large degree. That you chop all of that out and just go from action to action to action. I think it could have been a much more compelling game.
I agree with you completely. To that point, Pully, I noticed one line of dialogue. This happened one time to me. I jumped in the car after a mission. I'm about the same as you. I think I'm 4.5 hours in off the top of my head. And I can't remember the name of the particular story mission I did. But once I got in the car at the end, it wasn't the end of the mission, because it was to drive back to the headquarters you see on screen now. And that was the end of the mission. My character said, as I jumped into the car, is he talking to his lens or the car? Either way, he says the one line of dialogue that made it in the game that I think they meant to pull out was auto drive to whatever the name is, headquarters. Like he verbally calls out the auto drive. Wait. And what I think's happened is, I think on their Dream Dock, originally they were all near future stuff and you just jump in the car and say it and it goes. And how many other games do you get in? Like even Red Dead Redemption do it. Like you get in the horse and cart and you plot your waypoint to the city, and you can either sit there and watch the drive or you can skip the drive. I think they never got the auto drive working, and they had the dialogue line recorded and it's in the game where it should be, but the prompt for skip the drive never comes up because they never finished the feature. Wild speculation, but what do you think of that?
I'd have to go and check it, because I heard the same thing, but I heard navigate to.
Yeah, no, it does typically say navigate twos in at heaps, but there was one instance, I've got it on video so I can pull it up, or not tonight, but I can go out and find it. But there's one instance where he says auto drive to headquarters.
Yeah, okay. And look, even that, if they had thrown that in there with the option to skip it, would have.
I reckon that was on the docket and they ran out of time.
Yeah, it would have helped it as well. And it may that way will be the case. And it might be something they're working on in the background. We'll get to a story a bit later on, which might sort of debunk that. But, to be honest, I think we spoke about it last week that it was one of the worst reviewed games for the year. Oh, this is nowhere near the worst game of the year.
No,
Like,
it in no way deserves the heat it's got.
No.
I think so many people are off base. I don't understand where the criticisms are coming from.
No, neither do I. I don't think it's an A+, AAA top tier experience. Like you said at the start, it's not Death Stranding, it's not Expedition 33. Like, we get that. I think the best way for me to compare it to is a sort of more modern version of a PS3, PS4 game, and that's not being critical in terms of the game itself. What I'm trying to say when I compare it to that is that third-person action type game that we saw a lot of in that era that we don't really get a lot of these days, and this is filling that void that I really enjoyed in that.
Can I pitch a game to you that I think fits
era.
the bill? Sorry, mate, I talked all over you. I missed that last sentence entirely.
No, I was just saying that for me fills the void of games that I really enjoyed in that era that we don't really get anymore. And they're very few and far between. So when you get one, I'm quite prepared to look through past some of the more obvious flaws with it to see the game that's underneath, because those games in that era were the vast majority of them weren't, mind-bending, amazing game of the year contenders, but they were good, solid action games with a half-decent story. This one's got a pretty good story, but half-decent stories. The action was good. It kept flowing. It kept going, and it kept you entertained for, sort of 15, 20, 25 hours. And this sort of, for me, fits that bill.
100%. Can I throw a game at you that I think is exactly what you just said? Spec Ops The Line. Now, there's a chance some people aren't going to like me comparing this game to Spec Ops The Line, but there is a whole heap of narrative I want to dive into where I can make the case, even though I haven't finished it. But Spec Ops The Line, cover-based shooter.
Oh, just sorry to jump in. I'll just see on the screen there they're doing the CPR thing. My understanding, the latest patch has nixed that because so many people were failing it.
I enjoyed it. I put it in here because I liked it. No,
I didn't think it was that bad.
I put in all the mini games I came across. The one where you're on the spy cam and you're positioning the sentry turrets. I put in the CPR. I put in the drone flying. All those little mini side things. I loved it. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know where the hate's coming from. And I really want to get to, so I want to do a deep dive now on narrative, and then I'm done with the game. Obviously, I'm saying for me, it's sitting in an 8, but I haven't finished it yet. Do you have any final points you want to make before we really dive heavily into the narrative?
Oh, I suppose the only thing I'll say is, look, it's not. I get what you're saying when you compare it to Spec Ops. It's the reality is, I think there's a lot of rose-colored glasses with Spec Ops. The game itself is an okay third-person shooter. I think what everyone hangs their hat on is the story,
the narrative
itself, and the narrative arc towards the end of it, the game, that you sort of realize what's going on and what's happening to the main characters. So I think that's what a lot of people hang their hat and their memories of games like that on, rather than 90%. Okay, there's 10% of stories and cutscenes and all the rest of it, but 90% of it is just third-person cover-based shooting, which is this game. That's what this game is. So I find it really, and I suppose probably to a broader issue, I find it really difficult when you read a lot of, and it sort of goes to why I've checked out a lot with social media to a degree, because I find that people just want to complain about everything. Like, there's always something to complain about. You can never just be happy with it. So people are complaining that there's not enough games coming out, which I find bizarre. I think at last count,
ludicrous.
Last year there was 20,000 odd games. Now a lot of them are shovelware and nonsense, and we get all that. But there's never been any more games. There's never been a period of time that so many games are coming out, and at some point you'll find something that you will enjoy. And if you don't, maybe this hobby isn't for you anymore. I don't know. Like, I just sort of, if you don't like this game, that's okay, but you don't need to rip it apart.
Yeah.
To the point of calling it the worst game of the year and etc. Because it's clearly not.
It's insane.
There's worse stuff coming out. If you don't like it, that's okay. Move on.
Yeah,
Find something else that you like.
I agree with you. Now, one of the complaints I flagged to Unky, and then he confirmed for me that people have been complaining about online, really dinging the game for this point. The point was this: you're in a Tesla, essentially, an electric car. And I pointed out to Unky, I'm like, I really don't get it. I'm in an electric car. I'm driving. It handles okay, it's a bit floaty, but it handles the way you'd expect an electric car would. Yet the audio that accompanies it includes gear shift, first, second, third. And I said to Unky, I'm like, that's ridiculous. I'm in an electric car. There are no gears. Why are we hearing gear shifts? And he commented back, oh, yeah, a lot of people have been dinging it for that online. And I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then I played for another couple of hours and I was driving along and they actually discussed that very point in the game. It's your main bloke talking to the hacker and he says to her, he's like, why do all these cars make so much noise? And then she explains there was a whole backstory to it. There was a court case. Someone got ran over. They had to put loud noises on the cars to avoid lawsuits.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that because I was walking through the car park of my local supermarket the other day. And I hear this sort of wispy, almost flute-like tone as I'm walking past these cars. And I look across, and it's an electric car that's about to reverse. And instead of having like a truck would with a loud, annoying beeping, that's the noise to let you know that the engine's on. Not the driver, but for anyone else that's around, that the engine's on and it's about to move. So I don't see that as a massive issue because, like, if you're trying to make electric cars more enticing for people that are, car enthusiasts or whatever it is. I would say, well, throw those things in there that would make it a throwback to a, gear shifting V8 throbbing petrol car. You're never going to get that in an electric car, but you can have the gear shifting.
Yeah.
You can have the engine noises. You can have all of that.
As I understand it, Teslas can give you that sort of, deep V8 gear shifting sound if you like it. Haven't seen it myself, but apparently that's the thing. But what I was trying to get to, mate, was people have maybe played the first 40 minutes, hour of the game. I don't know how long you need to play or can play a game for on Steam before you can get a refund. But wild speculation again, if you paid for this game on Steam, played it for an hour, saw that, oh, why would an electric car have gears? I'm going to go online and flame it and let's rally a whole heap of hate around how they can't get the sound effects of the car right. When if you just had to played it for another 3-4 hours, you would have found naturally in the game world why that was a thing. So, it's a great way to tell a story. You've made it prevalent enough that me, the gamer, without knowing anything, goes, oh, that's weird. And then 3 hours later, it just naturally gets revealed to you and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, but if that... it goes back to what I was saying before. If you're hanging your hat on criticizing a game because an electric car sounds like it's got gears that are shifting, like if that's your biggest gripe with what's going on, like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, really, this is the point we've got to where you're going to criticize piddly little things like that. That the reality is, I'll be honest with you, 5 hours in, I haven't even noticed it. I didn't even notice that there was gear shifting.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm more looking at the lighting effects and the reflective lighting on the car and the sandstorms that you drive through and the
speaking of the lighting effects,
through.
Sorry to interrupt, but speaking of the lighting effects, I know it's coming up there. Look at their shoes. They're standing in like this bathing light on the landing pad, and their shoes are so green. I thought it was awesome. Sorry for interrupting back.
No, but that's the stuff that I'm paying attention to.
Yeah,
the narrative that's coming through while you're driving the car is what I'm paying attention to. Not the fact that it's shifting gears. Like,
yeah.
I get breaking down games to that degree to some point, but if there's 10 things like that you're hanging your hat on to criticize it, like, really, are you actually paying attention to the main aspects and the main parts of the game? Like, I think it throws a lot of interesting things at it. And I said it last week, is it's by no means the greatest game in the world, but there's something there.
It's an 8, and I'm dying to get into why I think it's an 8 and why I think it's going to go down the Spec Ops Stallone route. And in 3-4 years, people are going to be saying, "Oh, I loved it on day one," and everyone else was wrong.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see because, as I said, we've both discussed that the story it's not something that hooks you in straight away, but there's certainly something there with the story to start with. And then once you start getting into it and working through, you get a bit of a background of the main character, you sort of work out what's going on, and you go, oh, there's actually a little bit in this. And I sort of want to, I want to see where this is going. It's not the worst story in the world. There's plenty of games that I've played that you skip through cutscenes and dialogue because the gameplay is good, but the story's rubbish.
Absolutely. Now it's time. I think we're in a pretty good spot now. I'm going to dive headfirst into why I think this game is going to go down the Spec Ops the line. Notable game in history. Now we've got a sound up on tape. I don't think I've ever done a sound up on tape during the show before. Bully, it's going to run for, I believe it's 23 seconds. And I just want the viewers and your good self, Bully, to pay particular attention to this course of dialogue. And then I'm going to drop on you why I think this game is Spec Ops line worthy. Are you ready, sir? All right, ears up. Here we go.
I hear you are on your way out to Red Rock Plains as we speak.
Yeah, to watch and observe.
Right. And do you know what you're walking into?
They're criminals. It's a drop.
They're dangerous. You seem very calm.
Should I not be?
I just find that interesting.
That's enough of the science experiment, Okada.
All right. So, you heard that, everyone? Here's my suspicion. I don't know. I haven't read it. I haven't looked. As I said, 4.5 hours-ish into the game. I think that we're a Blade Runner. I honestly think the main character is an entire android. I think that bit on his neck is the, hey, I'm a robot. If you heard the dialogue they just said, old mate who's a scientist who was involved in the production of, and you hear it various times throughout the flashbacks, oh, we're working on a super robot project, super military stuff. You see in this opener bit here, you walk down the street and they've got police robots out. And then the main character asks his companion here, he says, oh, how do you feel about police officers being robots? And then he makes the offhanded comment, oh, they've taken every other job. Why not police officers? So it's like leading you down this road of, well, okay, the police turn into robots. What if the military do? Which is what I think is. That's it right there. Police robot, give us your ID, blah. They were building a super robot project. And then, okay, hold on. So his mate here is telling him, he keeps telling him, oh, you remember when we did this in high school? You remember when we did that in high school? Remember when we were growing up, this happened? To me, that is, if you recall Total Recall, his friend on the construction site right at the start does the exact same thing. He's like, oh, remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? And then it's revealed later on, no, he only started handling it 2 weeks ago. He was a handler. I think that guy who gets in the job is a handler. And the guy who built the robot originally, who talks to him, the way he walks up to him and touches his neck is like he's not a human. He touches him the way you touch a robot, someone that's not a consciousness that you need to consider their personal space. On the way into combat, he points out, hey, you're very calm, aren't you? Yeah, why shouldn't I be? Because I'm a robot sent to kill people. I'm not going to be concerned. I honestly think the big reveal at the end of this game is going to be that you were playing as an android the whole time. And if that's the way it goes down, like Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies of all time. If this is essentially Blade Runner, the video game, that is why I'm saying, if that's the case, I'm swinging and I'm taking a big swing here, I admit it. And I could be way wrong. I might be totally wrong. But if I'm right, Spec Ops the line material, I reckon.
No, and that's the thing as well. Like you might be right, you might be wrong. I don't know. Well, you'll have to go play through the game and find it out. But that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that there is a decent enough story behind it to keep you engaged and to keep you sort of going, okay, what happens next? I'm interested in that. How does this next section play out? It's not a terrible story. Like,
no,
and the gameplay that goes with it, again, it's not top tier, 10 out of 10, mind-shattering game of the year sort of stuff, but it's decent enough to get you through to the next part of the storyline.
It's a double-A game with a kick-ass story.
And enjoyable enough to get you through to the next part of the story.
Right here. Look at the way he touched him on the neck. Oh, yeah. Hey, you're not a human, you're a robot. Let me just invade your personal space here, but you're not a person, so you don't have any. Like, to me, it's all throughout the game. There's these little moments where and this bit on the thing, he's like, he says audibly, why does that robot have teeth? Because you have teeth, because you are that advanced version of the robot. I'll tell you who isn't advanced, me. See this game on screen here, the mini game in the office where you're searching for evidence?
Oh, I haven't done this one yet.
Well, I honestly thought I had to crack this encryption in order to get the evidence I needed to progress the story. I spent 10 minutes on this game until I'd mastered it, at which point I went, I think this is just a mini game that I've accidentally played and made an assumption of, and I get off the terminal, walk over, and then it kicks off the next cutscene. I'm like, oh, I'm a goose.
No,
Still,
well, I mean,
not a bad minesweeper.
and again, just before we sort of finish up, but you saw in that footage as well. If you paid attention, you can actually see it's like we've mentioned the car that you drive is Tesla like. You can see through the back windshield the large iPad sized screen in the center dash with your controls and stuff on it. Like, to go to that degree of putting that sort of stuff in there,
Yeah,
it's not a throw a bit of money at something to make a quick cash turnaround and try and dupe people. They put time and effort into something that is relatively enjoyable. And again, it's not that there's a couple of issues with it, and I think we all acknowledge that. But it's not what is being purported out in the wider community to be.
Yeah, no, it's not. I don't know why they decided. Oh, sorry, final time. I don't know, I'm belaboring it. But there in the world, it's a glitch and you enter someone else's memory and then you come out of it and you go, I really feel like I was him. It's because you're playing an android's memory and you're an android. Like, no one else in the world can see those little pools because they're not an android. Like, it's just like, once again, I'm back to Total Recall. Remember, he keeps having the dreams of Mars, and they're like, you've never been to Mars. What are you talking about? You don't know that woman. You never had a relationship with her. No, he did. They weren't dreams. They were flashbacks.
Oh, see, that's how I sort of take it. I've sort of seen it maybe a little bit of a different point of view, is that it's RoboCop-esque, as in, he was a soldier, he was an actual human, that his brain's been transplanted into a robot or a cyborg. So what you're playing through is that these scenes and the flashbacks and all that sort of, that was him as a soldier.
Yeah, I think it was him as the robot soldier. I reckon it'll be like
no, as in a human.
No, I understand what
human. Yeah,
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying it's gone the other way. It was either this particular unit, or they made, pick a number, 10 of them, 8 of them, and they all shared a consciousness, on the cloud. He's hitting these different points, and he's having the flashbacks to either himself or his brother robots that were these super soldiers that they invented and then disappeared from the map. Like, anyway, I can't wait to play it, and I've got to play through this game and find out whether I am in fact a Blade Runner trying to detect robots when I'm one myself and can't work it out. Anyway, that'll do it, I think, believe, for game 2. Shall we move on to game 3, sir?
Carry on.
Demon's Tilt. Now, I've been getting into pinball games a bit lately, and I came across this one. Bully's out already. I'll keep it short, Bully. This one came out in November 2020. So it's several years old at this point, but I just happened to be looking for another pinball experience, and this one was on sale. But then I played it, and I absolutely loved it. It's a 3-tier table. Like, it's vertically stacked. So it's like table 1, table 2, table 3. And if you hit the ball in the correct position and hard enough, you can get to table 2 or 3, or there's supers and you can jump up and around. Yes, it looks very, what are we going to call that? 16-bit, I suppose. Like, it's a throwback art style, but it is incredibly addictive gameplay. I love the way they've got all the, typical pinball machines have, various story missions or whatever. And this is all themed around the occult, and you're doing, seances and all this sort of stuff. So, it's well themed. I love the art style. And as far as the way the paddles feel on the DualSense, it's not a PS5 game, it's a PS4 game. But the DualSense, it just plays it beautifully. I love it, everything about it. If you've never checked out this particular pool game, I'm blanking now. I want to say it was $12. I think it was a $12 purchase. I think it was worth every single penny of that $12. If you're into pinball games, I just want to recommend you check it out, because to me, it's mind-blowing, and I wish I had known about it 4 years ago when it came out. Lit me up. But are you a pinball player, Bully? Do you hate all pinball games or just this one?
Oh, no, I understand it's funny because the pinball games on console, home console and PC go back 40-odd years. Like, it's not a new thing.
No.
I've never understood it, though. Like, it's not... Like, I've played pinballs in arcades before, and they're okay. They're not really my cup of tea, but they're okay. But I've never understood the translation to console or PC. So it's not 100%. It's not up my alley, but if that's your thing, to me it looks pretty cool. The art style, it's actually the first thing when I saw the footage of it, it almost reminds me of now I'm blanking up. What's the auto shooter game that Vampire Survivors?
Vampire Survivors. I was about to bring that up for a very good point. But continue.
It very much looks like that Vampire Survivors style of graphics and the art style that they've got sort of running. That's sort of what it reminds me. But in terms of me playing it, no.
Fair enough. Very much to your point, and then we'll move on. The whole reason I love Vampire Survivors, for me, its high point is when you unlock the chest, and sometimes it turns into a 5, super chest. The way my brain lights up when that happens, that's this game constantly. For someone that's wired like me, playing it because the soundtrack's phenomenal. It's got that old school soundtrack, but it's perfectly in line with all the flashing lights and all the sounds and the motion of the ball through the ocean. This thing just has me on the edge of my seat and ding, 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 ding. I love everything about it. If you yourself get fired up by Vampire Survivors, I say this is a must play, assuming you don't hate pinball.
I hate pinball.
All right, Bully, let's crack on into your cold case for this week.
Cold case for this one, and it's a bit of a strange one, I'll admit that. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate. It actually came out on the Switch early last year. It's just recently been released for Xbox and PS5. I'm not sure about PC, but for those that haven't seen it or not sure what it is involved, it's basically anyone that's played Hades or those roguelike games where you move from area to area, and each time you move from one area to the next, you get a particular upgrade. It's randomized, the upgrade, so you can't really, each run, while it's different in each area that you play, and it's also different because of the upgrades that you get as well. Very much in that same Hades mold. Each run that you do, for the most part, your upgrades are reset at the next run, but there is things that you pull out into the hub world that can use to upgrade base stats like your attack power or your health or various other sort of bits and pieces. It's actually a really enjoyable game. Also, I remember Unky talking about it a little bit last year. I didn't know how, sometimes you see companies try and cash in on a trend to a degree, and we've seen a few Hades type style games, and I saw that's what I saw when I saw this game originally, that it was a bit of a cash in on that style game. We'll use we use the Ninja Turtles because it's a known IP that we might be able to drag a few people into. We don't have to put a lot of time and effort into it. It'll sell itself based on what we're sort of putting out there, whether it's any good or not. It's actually surprisingly really good. It's enjoyable. There's a good upgrade system. You can play as all the turtles, each have their own sort of different things. And the funny part is that you can actually draw what they call inspiration from other turtles. So, like I've been playing mainly as Leonardo, but you can use like Raphael will, if you use his inspiration, your critical hits percentage will increase as well as the damage you do with the critical hits. Or if you get one from Michelangelo, it will be your attack area that you increases and that sort of stuff. So it's actually a really enjoyable sort of game. And I played probably 3 or 4 hours of it last week. And then this week I've just really gotten right into it. Like that one more run, if I just do one more, I can upgrade this. I can get the stuff to take back to my base world to upgrade that one particular thing that I reckon will help me out on the next one. The only thing I will say about it is as much as Hades had, like it's basically it's different floors. So it'll have 10, 11 floors of that's what this area looks like, and then you move to the next one, that's what this area looks like. It's very much in the same mold, but from what I've seen so far, at about 8 or 9 hours in, it's 4 or 5, I think, sort of floors of this is what the art style is for this area, that this is always going to be a mid boss for this floor, this is always going to be the end boss for this floor, and then you move to the next one, and it's the same one time and time and time again. So you just sort of need to be prepared for that a little bit. You're going to be fighting the same mini bosses and same bosses over again. I don't think that the enemy variety is as good as it could be. Like, I understand that it's Ninja Turtles. You're fighting foot soldiers, and there's only so much variety you can have within that. But there's not a massive amount of variety in the enemies that you're facing. That the only sort of variety that they have in between is sort of different levels of each, foot soldier or mouser or
Bebop, Rocksteady,
you do fight Bebop, Rocksteady.
Krang.
I haven't got to Krang. You do fight Shredder. There's the frogs you fight. So there's enough in there. Like, and it's not a full price game. I think I got it on sale. I reckon it was only just come out. I think I got it for $25-30 or something like that. So it's not a full price game for what it is. It's actually a really enjoyable game. I'm not sure if you've ever gone hands on with it there, Troy.
Not this one. This one is not one I've played, but I am an old school Turtles fan, watching the cartoons as a kid, a couple of great films along the way. And then, not every Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, but I've played the vast majority. I would assume I've played 80% of the TMNT games over the years. And they're always a fun ride. I'd love to play it, but my plate's a bit full. I need to find out if I'm an Android or not.
Well, this could be the sort of filler in between, because each run only takes about 10 or 15 minutes. So you could progress the story in Mindseye, and then you could jump into another run in this. I don't know. I've really enjoyed it. I think it's well worth the price. It comes with some of the DLCs that were originally released on the Switch as part of the base package for PS5 and Xbox as well. So I think it's well worth the admission price.
Yep, I love the sound of it, mate. If there was less on my plate, I'd be all about it myself. Cool. And sorry, you picked it up physically?
I think the physical version comes out late August, and I saw it on sale on the one of the more recent PlayStation Plus. Sorry, not PlayStation Plus. One of the PSN store sales. So I did pick it up digitally. I do have the physical version on order though, so we'll that might just have to remain in the wrapper on the shelf for me to gaze at adoringly.
Fair enough. I'll come over it and drool over it one day as well.
Bring the towel.
Right. Should we move on to the most wanted?
Carry on. And again, I was going to say again, I'm probably taking some liberties here with this one, but Disney Illusion Island came out, I think, about 2 years ago on the Nintendo Switch. I did play it on that. It's a reasonable sort of game, but it is coming out on PS5 and the Xbox as well. Again, not sure about PC. I haven't looked at it. It's not my sort of cup of tea, but it's Metroidvania style game done with Disney characters, and I really enjoyed playing it on the Switch. I think it came out at a time where there was a lot of other stuff sort of happening at the same time, and I probably didn't give it the time or energy or love that it deserved. But it's got some pretty good reviews overall. It's being released onto the bigger console. Well, I shouldn't say bigger consoles, but the PS5 and the Xbox. What I am keen to go through is go through it and play it again, and go through and get the trophies, and hopefully it's not too grindy in terms of trying to get the platinum, because it's certainly something that I sort of focus on is as we've discussed many times in the past, is the trophies. So if I can get something on the PS5 or the PS4, I will. Now that it's releasing, I'll jump into it. And you can see with the art style there, it's sort of a strange mixture of almost that 1930s, 1940s style Disney characters, but with a sort of modern twist to it. So
yep.
I'm really keen. I'm pretty sure this one comes with some of the DLC as well included that was released after the Switch version. So again, I'm not sure if you ever played it on the Switch or you've got interest in this one, Troy, but not a lot coming out in the next couple of weeks, but this is certainly one that did grab my attention.
Yeah, I'm not surprised no one wanted to go head-to-head with Death Stranding 2. I think it makes perfect sense that everyone abandoned this particular landing spot in the year. I love myself a good 2D platformer. Everything you've said sounds great, but honestly, I don't even have time for 2D platformers. I do love it when I've got the time to play them, but I think the last one I ever really dropped time into was, and I'm blanking on it, roguelike, Dead Cells. Yes, yes. I love me some Dead Cells. I don't remember the hour count now. I've thrown many, many, many hours into Dead Cells base game and all its DLC. That game's an absolute thing of beauty. So I've got nothing against it. I love, Disney back in the day, the old cartoons, very much to your point. I love the look of the art styles. It does have a lot of nostalgia in it to those very old-timey cartoons. So there's nothing about this that puts me off. It's just simply not anywhere near close enough to the top of my list for me to be going hands-on. But I look forward to your thoughts.
Yeah, fair enough. I've got, they're telling me this will get delivered the same time as Death Stranding, so I might have a decision to make. I might not be ready for it next week, but certainly I'll have a look at it in the coming weeks.
If you do start Death Stranding, make sure you're not in a heartbreaking mood, mate. It's going to kill you. All right, let's move on to the news, shall we?
Carry on.
First up this week, Bully, who has the right to remain newsworthy?
Well, we've discussed it quite at length already, Mindseye, and we did discuss some of the things that they could probably potentially look at patching in or, making tweaks to that without impacting too much on the gameplay itself. But we did learn during the week that the company or the developers of the game built a rocket boy that was founded by an ex-G.E.A. producer, is now facing some mass layoffs of over 100 of their employees, which is really disappointing that it's only been out a couple of weeks and they're already laying it off a number of staff. And it would seem the company, as to my understanding, is only about 300 odd people. So they're laying off almost a third of their sort of workforce there a couple of weeks out, when there is some stuff that can be done to it to sort of improve, without going through it again. We've discussed it at length, but there's certainly things that can be done to improve the experience and make it better. And as we both said, there's something there that I think if they had persisted with it, okay, the first game might not have done overly well, but there's potential there for a second game that they could have learnt the lessons from the first one and worked on. But the fact that they're laying off the staff already, and I don't know the breakdown of it as to whether they were sort of temps or whether they were full-time staff in and of itself. But, they're not immune. We've seen plenty of layoffs over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years across the gaming industry, but really disappointed that they moved on that so early on after the games come out. And again, based on, from what I can see, is nothing more than a focused negative reviews on the game that, I'll let anyone else be their judge, but from my position, are completely unwarranted. So,
yeah,
disappointing to say the least. But hopefully, there's enough of the staff there that can tweak some of those issues, and it gets a bit of a second lease on life, like you mentioned earlier. If it does end up with the decent, really story beat and the story arc and some twists and turns running down the track, that's enough to drag people in down the track, and hopefully they can jump in and enjoy it. But for now, it doesn't look like it's going to be progressing much further.
It's unfortunate. I hope they can get just a couple of patches out. Number one on the ticket's got to be leave my visual settings alone when I restart the console. Please, guys. But terrible to hear. If this game turns out to be what I think maybe it could be, which would be amazing for me, I won't belabor it. I love everything I've seen so far. It's a crying shame that these developers getting cut off at the knees at this point in time. Very unfortunate. All right, Bully, news story 2, please, sir.
News story 2, and I did mention we've only got 2 because, we're in the week or 2 post Summer Games Fest, so a little bit light on. Most of the good stuff's already come out already, but we did learn during the week, and normally I don't report on Game Pass or PS Plus additions into the library there, but this one sort of caught my eye for anyone that is a original Warcraft RTS player or admirer of those games. The coming up on Game Pass, so released today, is Warcraft 1 and 2 remastered, as well as Warcraft 3 Reforged. So that's coming to Game Pass Ultimate and on the PC version of Game Pass as well. So I would
Did you say today?
Today, released today. So I'd imagine that the PC is probably the best way to play it. I can't imagine playing these games with a controller, but if that's all you've got, that's all you've got. I'm not sure if I think there was a bit of not hatred, but sort of pushback and a bit of disappointment with some of the remastered versions of Warcraft 1, 2, and 3 when they released a couple of years ago, Troy. So hopefully some of those bugs have worked out, but certainly jumping on the Game Pass today that they're being released. I remember back in the day, before when I was sort of splitting my time a lot more between PC and console, and less of where I'm now, where I'm primarily console, but Warcraft and Command and Conquer were the two big ones for me that I played.
yeah.
You know, I would have sunk hundreds, if not thousands, of hours into those games in the mid to late 90s. So I absolutely loved them, and
Yep.
I've tried to jump back into them in recent years, either through the remastered collections or updated versions or whatever it is, and it's never just quite captured that love I had for them back in the 90s. But certainly, I'd be keen to jump into these ones and see what the remastered versions sort of look like. I'm not sure if you've played any of them, Troy.
I love them all. I'm right there with you, buddy. Command and Conquer in the 90s, Warcraft, absolutely. Honestly, the only thing that got me to stop playing RTSs was World of Warcraft MMORPG when it came out. And then it stole thousands of hours of my life. But I'm a Blizzard fan from way back. These games were me down to the ground back in the day. I've got to find out what happens at the end of Mindseye. But after that, and before Death Stranding 2, I'm definitely going to install.
And in between Disney Illusion and Splintered Fate Turtles, you'll find a way to get there.
Well, on the plus side,
just don't sleep for the next 3 weeks. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. But I wasn't. I was meant to be on a shoot tomorrow, working all day, but it got cancelled due to rain issues. So it turns out I've got tomorrow up my sleeve. I think I know what I'm spending it on.
There you go. Well, you've got plenty to pick from.
Excellent work. That will do it for the news segment. Let us. Oh, actually, the only thing I'll say is I'm definitely going to do one of these installs in the upcoming days on the channel. So there'll be an install video for these in the very short future on Geek Aloud. Bully, over to audience interrogation, mate. What has been happening in that there YouTube chat? Please tell me I didn't hit the wrong button again and kill it.
Oh, I think you might have, but I'll give you some feedback of the question you asked earlier is which is my best looking game on the PS5 Pro?
Oh, good remember.
There's two that I'll throw at you. One is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, amazing looking game, especially with all the particle effects and the lighting and all the rest of it. And the other one, which to me, not the most graphically intensive game, but certainly for mine, one of the best looking games is Astrobot. And
great pick.
Some of the actual, if you stop and look and just take the time to sit there and look at the way that the art style is done, it's amazing. Individual blades of grass sort of flittering in the wind, and the dust particles and all that sort of stuff. So they're, for mine, again, not the most graphically intensive game, but certainly for what it is one of the most pretty games I've ever seen. So they're my two favorites. No,
I love it, mate. Great examples. I love Astrobot, and I don't think I can outdo it, but the only other one that would be in the running for me is Returnal. That game was...
Well, it's funny because they did release a PS5 Pro patch.
And it looks amazing.
I did jump back into it and have a bit of a look. I think the other one, which I have never got back to yet, given that I platinumed the game, but I'd be interested to see how it looks and plays, is Spider-Man 2. From what I've read, that is like the absolute benchmark for pro gaming. So I don't know if you've gone hands-on with it since the Pro.
Yeah. When they did the Pro patch for it, I installed it, and I just played through, the first 40 minutes, just the big Sandman opener fight.
Yep.
Breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, and I suppose that's always the issue with when you go through on platinum games, is that by the time you've got to the platinum, it's one of those things where you sort of go, well, I've had my experience with that. I've done everything that they've got to offer, and you put it on the shelf, and it's almost like that's it for all of time. But if you don't get the platinum, that for some reason in my head, even though I've done 90% of it, 95% of it, there's always that little bit of, well, I had never actually got the platinum. Maybe I'll jump back into it. So I don't know.
Returnal's answer by putting what they call it, Tower of Syphilis, but essentially a horde mode in, essentially putting poor Selena.
She's doomed anyway. So.
I don't think I saw any penicillin on that planet. A horde mode. How would you feel about a horde mode in Spider-Man 2, Billy? If it was just thug rounds after thug rounds.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting way to look at it. Like, I'd want to be more than just hand-to-hand combat style thing just repeated over and over again. I'd want to see almost like a playground
Boss
of-
rush mode?
Not even the boss rush mode, but you know those areas where you can sort of sneak around and you can you can web capture someone and string them up, and then you might go to
stronghold.
this the stronghold. So
Yeah.
if there was a sort of ongoing like endless mode of a stronghold, you know, to some degree, where you had that combination of sneaking around and doing that, plus the hand-to-hand combat if you got caught, and then you had to fight your way for a little bit and then try and sneak away. That'd be an interesting concept in and of itself.
And you know, I've already got the platinum in it, but give me another, you know, a couple of silvers and a gold for getting through
I'll jump
X
back
amount
into
of that with the PS5 Pro Enhanced patch out the door. Like, hello, I'm back. Anyway, that will do it for this evening. Bully, I declare us to be off duty, sir. Thank you very much, Bully. Excellent work in that there third slot all evening, mate. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm stranding away.
Strand away. But before you go, what else could you do with Geek Aloud?
Like it, subscribe it. You'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something.